Bapak, Ibu, Saudara sekalian, topik kita kali ini adalah karir sebagai Quantity Surveyor di proyek-proyek luar negeri. Jasa Quantity Surveyor atau biasa disebut QS adalah profesi yang pada umumnya dipakai di proyek-proyek perencanaan dan pembangunan atau proyek lainnya yang membutuhkan. Lingkup tugas antara lain kontrol biaya, kontrol volume pekerjaan, administrasi, dan kontrak proyek. Detailnya nanti kita tanyakan ke narasumber. Di Indonesia, jasa QS sudah banyak digunakan. Narasumber kita pada topik kali ini adalah seorang Chief Quantity Surveyor yang pada saat ini bertugas di proyek pembangunan Bandara Naika International Airport Srilanka. Beliau pernah satu tim dengan saya di proyek pembangunan Bandara Udara Internasional Sepinggan Balikpapan pada tahun 1991 sampai 1995. Pada saat itu beliau sebagai Quantity Surveyor di konsultan proyek. Pengalaman sebagai QS di proyek-proyek luar negeri sudah lebih dari 30 tahun, termasuk beberapa proyek di Indonesia. Beliau berkebangsaan Inggris. Saya perkenalkan Mr. Ian George Stewart, FRICS. Halo, Mr. Ian.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Tommy. How are you?
Selamat siang. Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, always good.
Good. Pertanyaan pertama adalah briefly definition of QS profession. What is a QS profession? Yeah.
A quantity surveyor's profession is he's generally a member of a team who will be responsible for cost planning, cost estimating, cost control,
Yes.
Preparation of tender documents, and advice, contract management. The best way to describe the main function, I guess, is that if you were the owner of a piece of land and you wanted to, say, you weren't sure whether to build a hotel or an office block on that piece of land, you would hire a quantity surveyor for the economic side, which will give you better profit against the cost of building it. A quantity surveyor would help you prepare that feasibility study. Then the contract was going to be let. You advise the owner, the client, what type of contract would be best to suit that building you're going to do. Then you prepare the bills of quantities, the tender documents. You would evaluate the tender, and then after award of tender, you would then manage the contract, both from the cost point of view and from the legal point of view.
Okay, so it means that it's same in project also like that, yeah.
Yes, but you can also, don't forget, as a quantity surveyor, you can also work for the contractor. You don't necessarily have to work as a consultant. So quantity surveying for the contractor, slightly different emphasis because the emphasis is purely then on cost.
Okay. And then why KS is needed?
From the client's point of view, he needs to know that there's a cost limit, there's a budget. He has to establish a budget. Now, that can only be done as part of the team. The engineering and architects will prepare the drawings, and an estimate will be done. With that estimate, a cost limit will be imposed, calculated by the quantity surveyor, from which the employer then gets his finance. If that finance limit is approved, then that limit is then looked at, checked against the tenders when they come in. That's the first check. Then if the tender is too high, then designers go back and reduce the design to make fit within the cost limit. You establish a cost limit. Then during the construction management, the quantity surveyor provides reports to the client about whether that cost is being managed or not. Also, during the contract management time, there will be claims from the contractor, which the QS has to address and advise the clients on. Now, if you were working for the contractor, as a contractor's QS, you also need to control your subcontractors. Contractor has a cost, his contract price for doing a project. He has to stay within that price. and therefore he has to control all his subcontractors. Without a QS, there's no, I mean, other disciplines can attempt to do it, but there is specifically better for a QS to be involved to control the costs.
So it means that the main function QS is needed to control costs here.
Yes, that's my opinion. Yes.
Okay.
Others may differ.
Okay. If a project without QS, what will happen?
There'll be a cost overrun. There'll be no control. A client will not know what the final cost of his project is likely to be, and there will be big problems then. Projects will overrun, or the contractor will start to cut quality to make a profit, and you'll have a long period job with poor quality over budget.
Okay. It will be a question for yourself here. How do you become a quantity surveyor?
I left school when I was 16 because I was the choice 50 years ago in England for secondary education and university was limited.
Yes.
I couldn't do the subject I wanted, so I left school at 16, joined a quantity surveyor's office. The reason I chose that, my father was in the construction industry, so I was familiar with what a quantity surveyor did. So I went to a quantity surveyor's office, trained for 3 years at very, very junior level, including running messages, making tea, etc., like an office boy.
Yeah.
And then studied part-time to higher education. With the higher education, I was then able to go to college full-time 4 years later. And then got my diploma from college. And then in UK, it's very, very necessary to become a member of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, that's RICS. And you need to have basic and higher level educational skills, certificates to join that. So I did 4 years at college, and then from college, I went straight overseas. But the important part for me was a very basic training between 16 and 20 years old, because at that stage I knew I wanted to become a quantity surveyor.
Okay, yeah. You have been involved in many projects globally. What is the most complicated project you have been experienced?
It's difficult. In technical terms, they've all been reasonably not complicated, but in terms of the involvement of the QS, there's two that stick out. One was an airport I did in UK, and it was a system of contract management called management contracting. It was popular for many years, in which in this system, which I don't think Indonesia has ever employed, is that a contractor will be given basically the whole project is split down into work packages, maybe 20 work packages, and a main contractor is appointed only to manage those contractors, and he gets a fee percentage on the value of the overall contract sum. So we had meetings whereupon all 20 contractors were represented by a quantity surveyor. The management contractor had a quantity surveyor. I was representing the consultants, and we had another quantity surveyor representing the client. So we had 23 people around the table trying to agree on things. Impossible. So that was complicated.
Complicated. All right, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Which project Which project
that was Manchester Airport, Terminal 3.
Oh, UK. Okay.
Yeah. But I was also involved in one in Indonesia, a mining contract. QSs can also be involved in other things, not just construction work. I've been involved with oil and gas, and this one was mining in South Kalimantan. Central Kalimantan. Again, it was a contractual nightmare. You have the place where you're doing this open cast mine is 60 kilometers from the nearest river. So you have a contract for building the access road. You have a contract for taking the coal out of the ground. You have a contract for transporting it down to near the river. A contract for washing the coal, splitting it up into different grades. A contract for loading it into the boat, and a contract for removing it by a boat. Now, if there's a problem with along any of those contracts, it affects everybody else. So that was another contractual arrangement, which is a nightmare.
Okay.
Technically, no. Sultan's Palace in Brunei, complicated because there were 15 different nationalities involved.
Yeah. So it means it's only the complicated case only for the quantity or several.
Yes, just for contract management. Just for contract management. Most of the technical, from our point of view, QS's point of view, a technical complication in design doesn't make a great deal of difference to us. It's the architect's problem.
At present, you are involved in biggest project in Sri Lanka, I think. Yeah, it's
that's correct. Yes.
Perjalanan Karir International Airport.
Yes, correct.
What scope of work you are responsible in that project?
At the moment, we're just finishing the first phase, and I have one assistant to help me. And in that respect, we're just contract management, which basically means, in my case, dealing with all the correspondence. For example, there's over 2,000 letters I have written, both to the clients and to the contractor. We're responsible for overseeing the payment applications, monthly payment applications made by the contractor, evaluating them, and organizing the payments. Variations. Every project has variations. The best engineer in the world can't see the future. And because unfortunately the last 12 months we've had terrorist bombing here, so that made a problem in terms of closing the site down for some time. Then of course we've had the current COVID situation where the site had been closed down for 3 or 4 months. So we've got a lot of contractual claims. The contractor is late, partially due to his own fault, partially due to other circumstances. So that will continue. The next phase, I will have an additional 3 quantity surveyors. So there'll be 5 of us in total, because that's the construction of a new terminal. So I'll have 4 people assisting me on that, and that's a 180,000 square meter terminal.
180,000 square meters.
Square meters, yeah. And it's slightly complicated that because it's surrounding the existing terminal. So we can't stop operations of the existing terminal. Although, because this COVID situation, the passenger arrivals and the actual passenger throughput is likely to be reduced over the next couple of years, so make the job a little bit easier. But there's new access roads, and it's a main road we're going to have to divert, so there's be traffic problems. There's a new power station, incinerator, usual add-on buildings need to make the airport function. So yes, that'll be a challenge.
Okay. I want to ask you about the QS profession in UK. QS is originally from UK.
Yes, it started about 150 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. The world facing to the UK. What education is needed to be QS in UK? Is there any specific education for QS?
If you want to become a qualified, as in becoming a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, yes. The education system in the UK is you have, when you're 16 years old, you have one set of exams called O levels, ordinary levels. When you reach 18, you have A levels. Okay. So you must have a minimum number of A levels to get to university. Now, once you do it at university, if you want to become a QS, there are over 35 universities in UK that provide specialist courses in quantity surveying. You get a degree, Gala, in quantity surveying. There are many colleges as well as the universities that provide this. And with that, once you've got that degree, you apply to become a member of the RICS. You then have to keep a record for 2 years. You have to have 2 years experience post-qualification, 2 years experience. And you have an assessment at the end of that. You have to keep a book, daily diary of what your experience is. At the end of 2 years, you have an assessment. And if the RICS think that you are suitable, then you become a member. The other way of doing it is if you have 5 years experience and a degree in another subject, it could be history or whatever, but not a degree in it, then you can apply same thing applies, another assessment. If you have over 10 years experience, and it has to be within a specified field and no degree, you can then also apply. So a lot of people who are not academically gifted, shall we say, but have a lot of experience can apply to get the certificate. I mean, using the letters, the RICS, only means it's the only, not the only, one of the main, if you want to go overseas, it's crucially important you have that qualification. For example, I wasn't allowed initially to come into Sri Lanka because I don't have a degree. But when I proved that I have the RICS membership, eventually the government here accepted that as being a recognized professional qualification.
Okay. Instead, formal education, like you explained just now, what skill is needed for a person to be quantity surveyor? It should be a skill.
I think not really, because the training you get as a quantity surveyor, it covers everything. It covers construction technology, construction law, a lot of more and more so now IT, because taking up measurement these days is all done by computers. And you'll find that once you've done your training, you'll then find you specialize what you prefer to do. I specialize in contract management. Others prefer to do the quantities. There's a company which my colleague of mine owns in Sri Lanka here, and he employs 30 local Sri Lankan people, and it's amazing. He just does everything on computers, preparing quantities, and these people, and I've done a lecture there, these people don't want to do contract management. They're very, very happy producing bills of quantities from the drawings.
Because they can use the computer.
That's right.
More easier.
Absolutely. And they're very good at it.
Wow. It's about FRICS, FRICS. Is it a QS qualification?
It's when you join the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, that's the RICS part, automatically you become a member, MRICS. Okay, so that's when you've had your degree and your assessment, or through practical experience. After a number of years, and if again you have to apply to become a fellow, which is what I am, because I had my own company in the UK for some years. And you have a specialist skills, like if I wanted to go into arbitration, and I'd done arbitration for some time, if I was a senior lecturer at a university, because that's another career outlet, is become in academia and become a lecturer in quantity surveying. You have 35 universities doing it, and obviously there are a lot of lecturers. So yes, I got my FRICS in 1991.
Generally, how many years it will take to become a QS?
From the time you go to, you have 3 years in university, 2 year post qualification. So 5 years you can become a qualified QS.
Junior QS,
Yeah, correct. But if you go through the contractors organization, or even through the consultant, if you just want to stay in the UK, you can become, and you don't want to go through the exam routine and assessment routine, you can join QS consultancy in the UK or a contractor and just go through to a certain level. You only get to a certain level, of course, because you won't be able to sign things because you're not qualified.
Okay. What do you think QS profession prospect in the future globally?
Oh, very good, very good. I mean, what's happening now is we take Indonesia as an example. When I was first working in Indonesia nearly 30 years ago, there were only 4 quantity surveying companies in Jakarta. Interesting enough, and they were all expat, all British companies. Of those 4, 2 other gentlemen who started those companies are still in Jakarta, but under different names now, because what's happening in the UK profession as well, large conglomerate consultancies out of America and out of other countries are making huge conglomerates out of consultancies. So you have a multidisciplinary consultancy group, and they've swallowed up all the individual quantity surveying companies. Both the two largest ones are both in Jakarta, and the two that didn't get swallowed up, they've now split on their own, continuing to be independent, because obviously in 30 years they've made their contacts.
Yeah.
So in the future, one of them, for example, the new proposed new capital city in Kalimantan, one of those groups is involved in that. Good career prospects for them. Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask your tips here. How to become KX expert in overseas project?
No, the obvious advantage I have is I'm native English speaker. The most important thing if you want a career overseas in anybody from Indonesia, obviously, is language capability. But language capability, same as yours, there's no problem. It's I've dealt with a lot of people who are a lot less fluent in the languages than you are. Yeah, so yeah, fluent in the language, good communication skills. As I said, if you need to write letters and things. Also, you've got to bear in mind when you're working overseas, it's a multicultural, or you will be in a different cultural environment, and it's being able to handle that, mixing with different people, being sociable, not just during the day, but evening as well, and also being extremely flexible. I've done things in my work-wise which I would never dream of doing as a quantity surveyor in the UK. I was working, for example, when I worked in the Middle East, I was working a lot for the Emir Sultan there. He had his own department of look after all the palaces, etc. And I was seconded to be the chief quantity surveyor for that area. So I got to know the Sultan's family, the technical family, very well. And I was asked to go and inspect some timber work that had been done. Could I give an opinion whether it was value for money? It was a ship, his yacht. Now, his yacht is like a small ferry that you run from Sulawesi to Kalimantan. It was about 2,500 ton boat, and it had beautiful timber paneling. And I was presented with a bill. And so I said, is that value for money? Ship's carpentry, I've never been taught ship's carpentry. I know it's high class. So you've got to be able to think quickly and give the client what he thinks he wants to know. He thought it was too expensive. I agree, it's too expensive. But you have to be a little bit flexible, you know, and not, I can't do that. No, you have to be flexible, think about it, and think about where your next job is coming from. That's the other thing about working overseas, build relationships. And the most important one, I think, at the end, the most important one is what in Indonesia used to call KKN. Yeah, the ethics are crucial for a quantity surveyor with the qualification of the RICS. We have to do an ethics course every 3 years still. Recurrent every 3 years. In between time, I have to go on courses. I have to do 20 hours, what they call CPD, continuing professional development, every year.
Every year means in different location, or you have to?
No. You can do it online, but you got to go to lectures and things like this. Yeah. So, but I have been offered when I was in the Middle East a lot of money because we're on tender committees. So easier to take the money, award the job. But once people know that you're honest, ethics, I've worked for 9 or 10 different employers, and I know I can always get a job back there because they know my ethics are correct.
Okay. So it's meant to keep away from that things. Yeah.
KKN, yes. If you're RICS, if you are aware of it, you have to report it to them. Now they will deal with it through the back door and put pressure on who's ever pressuring us. So RICS worldwide is a very professional body and a lot of influence in the construction industry.
Information about the overseas job that need quantity surveying.
I would advise anybody who wants to think about the job in quantity surveying.
Overseas,
Overseas, the RICS website gives you a lot of information.
Oh, RICS website.
Yeah, and they have a job sector there. But generally, a lot of the projects are word of mouth, of course. If once you're on the overseas circuit, as we call it, and you get to hear of jobs going. But mainly job agencies, international job agencies, and there are also there are at least four or five job agencies I can think of who. For free, you join, and every week they send you by online. They send you their vacancies.
Okay. If you have any additional tips, yeah.
It depends what you're interested in. My particular interest was in the contract management side. But if you're, for example, if you mentioned the IT side. But if you want to get a job in oil and gas industry, quantity surveyors are used in that. Now I've said that we're responsible for cost control, cost planning, cost management, etc., etc. In the oil and gas industry, those jobs are split. There's a QS, there's a measurer, there's a contract manager, so they're individually split, and so you won't be expected to do all those subjects. Okay. So you can specialize, and you'll know once you've done your training what you prefer, and follow that. That's the easiest thing I say. I recommend going overseas.
Okay, yeah, that's quite interesting, but our time is limited, Ian. So thank you very much for your information, and hope that if we can have more detailed interview next time, next episode maybe I will contact you.
Yeah, no problem, my pleasure.
Bapak Ibu saudara sekalian, demikian tadi wawancara dengan Mr. Ian G. Stewart, FRICS. Sebagai informasi tambahan kepada Bapak Ibu saudara sekalian, profesi KS sudah ada di Indonesia dan sudah ada wadah organisasinya, Ikatan KS Indonesia. Silakan Bapak Ibu browsing di internet dan menghubungi. Sebagai penutup, demikian wawancara singkat tentang karir sebagai Quantity Surveyor di Proyek-proyek Luar Negeri dengan Mr. Ian George Stewart, FRICS. Semoga dapat menjadi masukan bagi Anda yang sedang meniti karir, dan sebagai informasi bagi Anda semua yang menonton untuk menambah wawasan Anda dan membuka inspirasi Anda. Demikian, terima kasih. Thank you, Ian.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Yes, okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Please don't stop.